Welcome to the Growing in Love for Life podcast, where it's all about saving and strengthening your marriage and creating the relationship you really deserve and want to have. And now, from growinginloveforlife.com, relationship and marriage coach and best-selling author, your host, Liam Naden.
This is episode 47 of the Growing in Love for Life podcast. Hi everyone, it's Liam Naden here again, and welcome back to the latest episode, and this is called The Mindset You Need to Save Your Marriage, Part 2. Now, in the last episode, I talked about the importance of having the right mindset if you want to save your marriage, and really how the way you think is what is going to give you the results you really want. You know, the way you think is what determines your actions, of course, rather than the other way around. And most people try to change the results in their life, including saving their marriage, without changing how and what they think first. They simply believe that just by learning maybe a few techniques or things that they do, that they'll be able to turn their life situation around. And of course, that's not the way we get results, and I covered that in quite a lot of detail in the last podcast episode. In that episode, I also said that there are two key elements of the right mindset to save your marriage. And the first one, you'll remember, is having what I call brutal honesty. And that's the type of honesty that you have with yourself that really gets to the core of who you are, why you are living your life the way you do live it, what has brought you to the present situation in your life, and what you really want. So it's a much deeper sort of honesty than just being an honest person. So once you're clear about these things, though, in other words, you are being totally honest with yourself, there is a second aspect of your mindset that you need to develop if you want to save your marriage, and if you want to also have a truly fulfilling life, which is, of course, what we all want really, and what we're here in this life to actually have, is a happy and fulfilling life. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, and what the second aspect of the correct mindset is courage. So what is courage? Well, courage is simply this. Courage is taking the actions you know to be right, irrespective of fears, worries, or concerns. I'll just repeat that. Courage is taking the actions that you know to be right, irrespective of your fears, worries, or concerns. Now, you know, very few people have courage about anything. No, seriously, when I look around, and I'm sure if you do this, you'll see this as well, you see a world filled with people living unfulfilled, unhappy lives. Many of them not even knowing that they're unfulfilled or unhappy. And it's simply because they've never had the courage to follow what their heart tells them to do. Now, I don't want you to be like that, because it's no fun. So in this episode, I'm going to share with you some ideas on how you can develop courage to do the right things, the things that will truly make a difference in saving your marriage. Now, firstly, why is courage so important? Well, because if you want to change anything, if you want anything to change in your life or be different, then you need to do something different, something that you've never done before. Now, you're not going to see, obviously, any different results if your actions stay the same. And in fact, we've all heard the famous quote by Einstein, who was a pretty smart guy, and he said the definition of insanity is doing the same things yet expecting a different result. And that is insanity. So you have to do something different. And the truth is, you have an inner voice that tells you the right things to do in every moment. And in the last episode about brutal honesty, that was really all about developing your ability to hear and listen to this inner voice. But it's like a guidance system, and it's really the same mechanism that causes your heart to beat and your body to function without you having to think about it. This mechanism also has a part of it trying to guide you to the right action in every moment. Now think about this, the thing I'm about to say, and consider it and see if you don't think this is true. All of the pain, all of the pain that you are experiencing in your life and your marriage in the present moment is the result of things you have done or failed to do in the past that you knew on a gut level were wrong. I'm going to repeat that. All of the pain that you are experiencing in your life and your marriage in the present moment is the result of things that you have done or failed to do in the past that you knew on a gut level were wrong. In other words, you knowingly made wrong decisions. If you really think about this, you'll realize it's true. You knowingly made wrong decisions, took the wrong actions, and that's why you're experiencing the pain you are in your life right now. You know, somewhere when you were taking those actions, somewhere, something in your mind, there was a voice saying to you, don't do this isn't right. The warning bells were on, weren't they? But you still went ahead anyway. You ignored those feelings, because that's what they were, those warning feelings, and you probably justified your actions to yourself by saying things like, well, I'm going to make this happen, I'm determined to make it work, or, well, I'm committed now to doing this, so I'm just going to follow through. Or, well, I'm sure things will turn out right. In other words, hope. Now really think about this, because it is very profound, and the willingness to really work with this idea can dramatically change your life for the better. And it's actually the key to eliminating all the pain from your life, and not only living a life free of stress, but a life filled with joy and peace, and finally living the life you are actually truly meant to be living. Right, because you see, I think on a deep level, most of us actually do know what to do to get the results we want, whether it's saving our marriage or any other result we want. Now, we might not know all the details on how to get there, but we know on a gut level the steps we should take, or at least the first or the next step that's going to lead us in the right direction. So the real problem here is not that we don't know what to do, but the problem is we don't know why we're not doing it. Now, just as an aside here, you'd be amazed how many emails I get from people saying, Liam, I would do anything to save my marriage. I really want to do one of your programs, or both of the programs. I know they would help me. I know they're the right thing to do, but I can't afford it. Now, I used to be quite puzzled by these emails, because I used to think, well, why would someone write to me and say they'll do anything, and then immediately contradict themselves by giving me a reason why they won't? It really puzzled me. But then what I finally realized is that if a person really does feel in their heart that my program would help them save their marriage, they really feel they should do that, then the real reason they aren't taking the step is not because of money, it's because they lack the courage. I'm obviously not saying that you don't have courage if you don't buy one of my programs. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that if it really feels like the right thing for you to do in saving your marriage, or in fact in taking any other step for that matter, and yet you don't do it, then there's only really one reason, and that's your lack of courage that is stopping you. Okay, so let's look at this. If that is the case, what is it that stops us from acting? What is it that stops us from having courage? And stops us from doing what we know we should do on a heart level, which is on an emotional or gut level? Well, it's the universal reason, isn't it? It's fear. Most people are just too afraid to do something or anything different, least of all something they aren't sure about the outcome of. And why is that? Because they fear that there will be pain in the consequences of what they do, that they might do the wrong thing, waste time, end up in a worse situation, etc., etc., etc. In other words, they feel that they will have moved further, or could have moved further away from their goal, such as to save their marriage, rather than towards it. Now, the point I'm really making here is this. There is an inner voice telling you the truth about what you should do or not do to create the life and marriage that you want. You really do, if you're brutally honest, have this inner knowing. And the only path to your happiness is for you to act on these ideas, on what your inner heart is telling you. If you don't, things are going to turn out a mess. And if you don't take these right actions, it's because your fears of the unknown in the future are stopping you. You don't have trust and you don't have courage. It's all understandable, I totally understand, but it doesn't help you. And that is the truth. Okay, so about this thing, courage. If courage to act on our inner promptings or our inner voice is the key to a truly happy life, then how do we develop it? Well, whole books have been written on this subject, but in this podcast I just want to give you a few ideas that I think and hope will help you to move in the direction of living your life with more courage. Okay? And by the way, look, don't beat yourself up over all this. If you feel, I'm such a coward, I haven't done these things, I don't have courage. No, all of us lack courage at times. And really that's the first thing to realize. To develop your courage is that fears are natural. Being afraid, after all, experiencing that powerful emotion of fear, it's part of the human defense and survival mechanism that we all have wired biologically into us. And it has a very useful role in protecting us against danger, such as running away when the wild animals were attacking our cavemen ancestors. They needed fear in that situation. So having fears is healthy, it's natural, but we also need to recognize the situations where they are helpful and where they're actually harmful to our well-being. Fear is a tool we can use in certain situations to protect ourselves, but it doesn't mean we should use it to stop us in situations where it can actually hurt us. And many people think that others who have courage, particularly if you see people who achieve great or seemingly difficult things, they think maybe they don't have fears. But those people do. They might be terrified, and they probably are, particularly if it's something big. But what courage is not the lack of fear, but it's the ability to act in spite of your fears. It's about saying, wow, this feels scary, I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I have this inner feeling that it's the right thing to do, so I'm just going to go for it. And that's what people with the most meaningful and happiest lives have managed to do, and that's what they think. It's not a lack of fear, it's the willingness to act on your fear. And in fact, I'd go so far as to say that the quality of your life is going to depend on your willingness to act on your fears. And again, if you wonder whether that's true or not, think again of anyone you know or know of who is perhaps either very successful or even very unsuccessful, in however way you would like to define that. And I think you'll see, if you really think about that person, you'll see that no matter who you look at, the results they have in their life are based on their willingness to act or not act despite their fears. So don't think that just because you're afraid to do something that you lack courage. The opposite is true. You may be terrified, but if you have courage, you just do it anyway. All right, so that's about understanding what fear is. Now, the other very powerful and effective way I've found to develop the courage to act on what you know is right is to change your beliefs about these two simple words. And those two words are making mistakes. Society has conditioned us to have the completely wrong idea about this word mistakes. After all, how do we learn? It's through making mistakes, isn't it? Think about how you learned to ride a bicycle. So mistakes aren't something wrong or to be avoided. All that mistakes are signs that you're making progress. And if you really got that, if you really realize that mistakes are simply signs you're making progress, your life is going to be transformed. Because if you're acting on your inner voice with courage and despite your fears, then every action you take is going to be the right one. Now that doesn't mean that every action you take is going to turn out the way that you expect, and that it's not going to cause you further discomfort or pain. That's not the way things work either, is it? When you learned to ride a bicycle, it hurt when you fell off, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep doing it, and that it was the wrong thing to do. No, we usually have to go through pain and things which are seemingly the wrong thing to get to the right thing. But once you realize this, once you really get that, which is logical, isn't it, when you think about it, then you don't expect that every individual thing that you do is going to turn out perfectly or free of pain. But you do expect that things will turn out perfectly in the end. Now, another way of saying this is to keep in mind keep your mind on the end goal. Now, whether that's to save your marriage or something perhaps in another area of your life, if you keep your eye on the end goal, what you want to achieve, and know that everything you do is the right step to getting you there, then you'll stay on track. As long as you keep listening to your heart and acting on it, that is the key. Now, I've actually devoted an entire previous episode to this whole issue of mistakes. It's something I get quite passionate about because so many people have got the wrong idea about it. So there's a complete episode on what mistakes are and how they're really one of your greatest gifts if you learn how to make use of them the right way, in a way that serves you rather than makes you afraid of them. And that's episode 19, if you want to listen to that. Really recommend it. Coming back to courage, the other thing about courage is this. Your courage is the only thing between where you are now and the life you really want to have, including the wonderful, happy marriage you want to have and that you deserve to have. And you do have an inner voice that's always going to guide you in the right direction. It might not seem like it all the time. In fact, you might be prompted to do things by your gut instinct, your gut feelings that you really don't want to do. You probably will be prompted. They may seem to have terrible consequences. They may terrify you. And you might think, I would do anything but that. There's got to be another way. But deep down you know. And you know, if you're really, really, really honest with yourself, that this is what you should do. You can't avoid that feeling, that knowing that it's what you should do. It keeps coming back to you. In that case, have the courage to act on it, because things will turn out better than you expect. You know, maybe it's quitting your job and finding another one that puts less stress on your marriage and allows you to spend more time with your spouse. Maybe it's saying you're sorry to your husband or your wife. Maybe it's changing one of your habits, such as getting angry or being insensitive or ungrateful. Maybe it's admitting that you're in the wrong relationship. Or maybe it's realizing that you really are married to the right person, a wonderful person, and you should do whatever it takes to save that marriage. Now, I'm no psychic, but I can predict something for you that I am virtually certain about. And that is, if you are in an unhappy marriage, which I assume you are to a degree if you're listening to this, if you are in an unhappy marriage, then you are going to face two types of pain in your immediate future. And you get the choice as to which one you are going to face. The first sort of pain is going to be a sort of ongoing, grinding pain, filled with seemingly endless drama and problems that never seem to get solved, no matter what you do. And the truth is, it seems endless because it is endless. You stay unhappy for the rest of your life because you're ignoring the inner voice which is telling you what you really should be doing, and you justify to yourself where you are, which of course is really only giving in to your fears. So you rationalize, and rationalizing is simply rationing lies to your mind. You justify where you are by not listening to your inner voice, and things drag on. Nothing much changes in your life. They certainly don't get better. And your situation either comes to a nasty end, by that I mean your spouse gets up and leaves you, or some other thing happens, or you carry your unhappiness and your unhappy marriage to the end of your life. Now there's a second type of pain. That doesn't sound very good, does it? You think, well, I'd really like to avoid that. But there's a second type of pain. And that's the second type of pain that you're going to face that could be very deep. And it's going to create great turmoil in your life, almost certainly. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty. There are going to be times when you'll be very afraid of what's happening to you and what you think is going to happen. And you're going to ask yourself things like, why is this happening to me? Things will seem to get a lot worse, and many things will feel out of your control. But this sort of pain just lasts for a while. Even though it's very deep, very traumatic, filled with pain and uncertainty, probably much greater pain than the first scenario I talked about in some ways. But this pain is different because it just lasts for a while. In fact, it won't be long, although it can be years rather than months. But in the overall scheme of things, it's a relatively short period of time. But the pain does only last for a while. Then your life actually starts to get better. And I mean really better. And one day you wake up and you realize that your life is absolutely amazing. You never thought you could be so happy. And you'll think back on what's happened and you will say, why didn't I do all of the things I was afraid of sooner? They were my greatest blessings. I never knew life really could be so good. And that's the life you get when you follow your heart, when you do what your inner voice is telling you to do. That's the reward for your courage. It doesn't mean there won't be pain along the way, but it's a pain that is actually worth it. And how do I know this to be true? How do I know that your life is going to turn out in one of these two ways? Because I have lived both of these lives personally. And I can tell you that one's worth living, and it's worth doing whatever it takes to live that life, and the other type of life isn't worth living. And there's only one difference, and it's a choice, and that's the willingness to be honest with yourself, brutally honest, and have the courage to act. That's it. So, my question for you is this. Which path are you going to take? What choice are you going to make? Are you going to choose to live by courage or by fear? It's all up to you. So think about what you really want. Listen to that inner voice. Give it a chance to talk to you. It's there. Listen to that gut feeling that's telling you what to do, and just do it. And this is really the only mindset you need to save your marriage, and more importantly, to live your true happy life. Now, if saving your marriage is what you want to do, ask yourself if enrolling in one of my programs is what you should do next. Does your heart tell you that I can help you? If it does, I really look forward to helping you. But whatever your heart tells you, have the courage to act. You'll be amazed how your life turns out. All right, well, that's all for today. If you'd like to find out more about how to save your marriage through my Save Your Marriage programs, you can find out about that on my website, liamnaden.com. Thanks for listening. Make yours a great life. You deserve it. And I look forward to talking with you again soon.